My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Hello guys, ATP Weekly. This time we're going to be talking about Dubai, Acapulco and Santiago a little bit. I mean, we're not really going to be touching on Indian Wells much for two reasons. First of all, we don't have the draw, but there's also going to be like a draw reaction stream maybe from us later in the day. So that could basically help you out. I do have one question for Mario about Indian Wells, but we'll leave that to the end of the show.
Okay.
For now, let's just kind of start from Dubai. That was kind of the biggest event, even though, of course, Acapulco and Dubai, both of these 500s eventually ended up having let's say semi-final lineups that weren't exactly all that expected. But the last few weeks we've been debating with John on Talking Tennis whether it's Stefanos Tsitsipas or Daniil Medvedev, which one of these two is like in a more horrible place, who are we more depressed by? And after this week, Stefanos Tsitsipas, absolutely nothing negative to say.
No. He played, very well this week, especially the semifinal and the final, because before, there have been a couple of, let's say, not very clean wins, even if against tough opponents. Then the semifinal and the final, not only winning, but winning really, playing well, especially in those sides of the game where we have seen him struggling at times, even when he was still at the very top of the ranking, top 3-4, playing very well with the back and returning very well in the last two matches. So I would say that for sure it's been refreshing to see him playing this way. Amazing week for him. I know that he had already won 4 titles above this category, but also a first 500 title finally. Even if I always remind that he almost always had pretty tough opposition in his 500 finals that he played before today. But especially after that match against Berrettini, he was risking a lot in that one. Berrettini actually was playing even better. Tsitsipas saved that incredible break point. It was 4-all in the deciding set. He hit that incredible volley to save the break point that sits there. He flew towards the title, playing some incredible tennis. I think we'll also touch about the change that is made in his equipment. Just it's been very, very refreshing to see him playing this way. As I repeat, especially the last two matches, it's really been a couple of flawless performances, almost as we haven't seen from him in a while. So really nothing, all positive, as you say.
Yeah, that's not quite correct, Jean. He also won the title in Los Cabos in 2023. So that was like August 2023 when he last made an outdoor hardcourt semi. But last year, obviously, he was like 50% on that sort of surface. I keep even wanting to say that this is his biggest hardcourt title. That is obviously not correct because of the ATP finals, but it's kind of like just such a separate, unique event that I'm kind of like not treating it as even in this category. Obviously, I would place it like right below a Grand Slam probably, but anyway, still, I mean, that was the reality. Over the 250 level, he hadn't won a title on hardcourt since the year 2019. So really, it's been a while, and finally he's done it. As Mario said, the equipment changed, the racket switch. Even though in these photos that we just had on our screens, you see a Wilson racket, that was actually a Babolat. a pure era, I think, or something like that. Anyway, yeah, I mean, maybe that's
98.
going to be yeah, 98 for sure. Maybe that's going to be a welcome change. Maybe that's also going to be sustained. I mean, obviously, we need to see more than just 1 week, but to pull
Absolutely.
this off on a court like Dubai, which is pretty quick for what we generally see on the tour right now, yeah, it's pretty massive for him. As Mario said, also the ATP 500 finals record, that was a big story. 0. Oh yeah, so exactly what we said. Thank you, Jean. 0 and 11 final record at the ATP 500 ATP 500s. I'm sure it wasn't a big deal for Steph because, as Mario also said, like he won bigger titles than this. But obviously, this was also one of his best chances. I think out of the 11 previous finals, only one of them was not against a top 10 player. Also, like even in Dubai, he had 3 finals, and it was to 8-time champion Federer and 5-time champion Djokovic. So definitely not the easiest. But in the end, he finally gets over that hurdle and just gets some very important points because obviously the clay season is coming. And last year, that's basically the only time of the year where he performed. And we know that right away there's going to be Monte Carlo dropping. And yeah, I mean, literally nothing more to add. I think you are correct that in the first few rounds, it just looked like, more of the same from Steph, really. But then beating beating Griekspoor and beating Felix without dropping without even coming to a tiebreak, yeah, that was pretty impressive and definitely better than I expected. Well, I guess the finalist in that event was obviously Felix, who's done so much good work this season already. 16-5. I mean, it's obvious that he's like beating almost everybody, especially in deciding sets. But I mean, yeah, what are your sort of like takeaways on the week? Is this the level that we think might, have him return to like the top 10 at the end of the season or something like that? Is this as good as his indoor peak in 2022?
I don't know, meaning that at least this week, I don't think we have seen a brilliant version of Felix, at least not for the wall, the wall matches. We've seen a lot of ups and downs, but, that Felix can play well. We have always known about it. The thing is that you won't always play this well. So the secret also to reach some heights in the ranking is also to be able to win matches and build runs, also in weeks where not all the pieces are falling into the right place in your game. And so, also being able to pull this week off, winning so many tough matches, that maybe, last year this wouldn't have been the case. He would have lost one of these matches. I think for sure this week has shown that he really is on confidence, because also the ability to play good tennis in the right moments of the matches, it's for sure important, and you need some confidence and self-belief to do it. I don't think it was a flawless week, but this doesn't make this run, less important. So I don't know if we've reached that peak level. Probably not. In Dubai, it wasn't, as clean as the level you're reminding me about. But I would say that it has the same importance because, being able to win these matches, even when there is, some ups and downs in your game, it's very, very important. And I think the secret also to reach some heights in the ranking.
Yeah, I kind of have to second that. Like, I don't think I was at any point this week I was thinking, oh yeah, Felix is just playing unbelievable or whatever, right? But the confidence that he's gathered from the start of the season, I think, was definitely crucial in him surviving all of these deciders. Just kind of like not letting the adversity get to him. I don't know. He has a horrible set on serve against someone in the opener, and then he still actually keeps moving forward and sort of like gets into his groove more. You can see that he's trusting his shots when it comes to the crunch, which maybe the other players aren't able to. And yeah, that was definitely something that stood out, despite the level looking like, for the most part, pretty average. But obviously, to be 16-5 after just 2 months, to make 3 finals as well, that's something that doesn't happen every day, and that's something that has not happened to Felix, especially considering 2 of these were at the were on outdoor hard courts. And obviously he was also going for, well, actually he was going for his biggest outdoor hardcourt title. Well, just like Steph. Didn't end up getting it in the end, but it's fine. Any other massive Dubai performers that we need to mention? Obviously, there were some major upsets like Marin Cilic beating the Minor right away, like Quentin Alice beating Andrei Rublev, Grigspor beating Medvedev. So yeah, just anything on either of these guys really that you want to talk about.
Well, it's been for sure, I think great storyline to see Cilic playing well. There were some positive signs also in Doha. Played a good match against Alcaraz, and to be able to follow up with a good run in Dubai with a couple of great wins against the Minor and Popirin, especially 2-3 setters, and then being able to go toe to toe once again in the quarterfinal against Felix is great sign also for from the physical side, from the physical point of view. So I would say Cilic is for sure a big story of this week, and it's been nice to see him playing this well. And probably the match between Medvedev and Grigspor, I think it's been pretty entertaining. Especially because Medvedev was kind of looking in the way of finding better level. In the first part of that match, he was pretty much untouchable, but yeah, for sure that is also a story, because now Indian Wells is coming, and if in Indian Wells Medvedev won't reach the final, he will be the only top 50 player without a final in the past 52 weeks. So we are kind of looking forward for
only
a Medvedev
top 50 player without a final.
I mean at any level, but 51 is I don't remember who sits at 51, but this is and what I was saying. I was saying that of course. Let's see. We are in searching of a Medvedev run. He's shown a little bit better signs in this month of February, but you can see that a little bit of confidence is lacking. Something also happening, against Felix in Doha, for example. It was a little bit weird. Then
that can't be right, Mario. I mean, where did Arnaldi make a final over the last 52 weeks, like, for example, like that? No, that's not possible. I don't know. It's too much.
Okay, sorry. I must have confused another thing. Okay, but yeah, I mean, the point is still that, of course, this was kind of starting looking like a week where Medvedev was, about to do something positive, and it hasn't happened. Let's see, because level was looking a little bit better against Pericard, against Grigspor as well, at least some point until some point of the match. And so I think that we just need to keep on waiting and see if he will be able to reach back a level where he will be still in the mix for titles, of course.
1T4 music. We will mention Indian Wells a bit at the end of the show, but just briefly because we don't have the draw yet. But there's definitely one like very pressing topic we have to touch on, and I will also reference it now because Medvedev, I mean, in Indian Wells he might actually do better than the last 2 years he was entering Indian Wells with a lot of confidence, and he was kind of like able to fight through the courts. But now he might actually have a court profile that he will enjoy. But that's what we're going to be touching on later. Anyway, I mean, for Medvedev, there were definitely some positive signs. We were kind of thinking that Dubai was going to be the event because it's quicker, because he shouldn't have as many issues just like getting through the court. In fact, I think we saw that, right? It's just that he didn't convert these match points. And after that, Taron Grigspor just pulls off an incredible win. I do think Medvedev was perfectly okay. He was ready to take this title. It's just that he didn't take these match points, and Talon was insane as usual. I mean, he's just one of the best players at winning matches like this, at surviving. I think the whole kind of like both of them, right? Grigspor and Botic van Zandschulp, they have this like on the court. You look at them and you feel like they don't even care. Like they really aren't in this. They don't have that intensity sometimes. But this also kind of works in their favor, maybe, in terms of just being those players who can come back from a deficit, because they don't really get the situation, get to them. And yeah, you already said a lot of things about Cilic. Indeed, despite starting his season in Doha, he didn't look rusty against Carlos, and obviously he didn't look rusty here. So I mean, we said last year that in China when he won Hangzhou that like the game is pretty much there still for Marin. So it's fantastic to see him pull it off from time to time. And who was the other one? Oh, yeah, Quentin Alice. I mean, obviously, after all these years of watching him waste match points and generally having the reputation of one of the biggest chokers on the tour, 100%, suddenly you have this run where like he is actually mentally strong. Whenever he blows a lead, he comes back, he still takes it. Of course, he ran out of steam against Felix, but it was still a really, really good performance as a whole. And that career high right now for him is looking very beatable, unless he actually beat it this week, which I'm not sure. He landed pretty close anyway. He isn't defending much before Wimbledon, of course, as you might remember that at Wimbledon last year, he had to go for the qualifying. And in fact, he barely made it into the qualifying. He was like 220 in the rankings. So, of course, up until then, he still has a lot of chances to maybe even break the top 50. This run isn't the end of the world for him, for sure. And losing this run, I mean, losing in the semis to Felix.
Oh, no, definitely.
Yeah, I think with this, we can definitely move on to Acapulco. Me and Mario recorded a small preview for the final on Talking Tennis. I don't know if you guys saw it. Pretty much our expectations were correct. That like Mahac, he didn't really let the occasion get to him at all. I don't think Davidovich Fokina did either. But Mahac just was playing at such a peak level this week that, he's just too good.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think for the first time in a while, we won't really talk about mental, the mental side, because I think it's been secondary in this final, meaning that, Mahac just played very, very well as basically the whole week, apart from just really a couple of sets. And Davidovich Fokina, I mean, did more or less what he had to do, meaning that he didn't play a bad final. Especially, it was a very good first set from both players. Mahac just, as I said in that preview, I repeat, this court, really everything seemed really perfect for him, and especially after that, let's say, Black Wednesday, where the draw kind of fell apart with that stomach thing. He really started looking kind of the most probable winner. I mean, I know that there was also a very in good form Shapovalov, but I don't know, this court really everything seemed perfect for him, and we got more or less what we were expecting in the final. First title for him on the ATP Tour, and already a 500 tournament. I mean, great for a player who's going very big and very strong over the past, let's say, year, now breaking the top 20. And we'll see what happens now with the Sunshine Double, because, I mean, I know that, as I also mentioned before, other times, probably at times disappoint a little bit, for example, in that match at the Australian Open, but overall he's played also many good matches against tough opponents. When we mentioned, for example, that fortnight in Shanghai with Alcaraz and Sinner as well, it was a good performance. So I think he really now has that thing of, being a very uncomfortable opponent. I would prefer to watch him to see his name on the other side, probably. So he's proven it this week, and a very well-deserved one. For Davidovich Fokina, I mean, a bit of tough luck once again in the final, but I mean, not as big as, as a thing as the Djere Beach final, where he really was an inch away from the title.
Lau, when it comes to your question about the South American tour for Zverev, I mean, he said that this was also a plan to be stronger for Garros, like play even more on clay this season. Personally, I think it's complete BS. It was just for the appearance fee, but I mean, he's not going to say anything like that, obviously. So, but yeah, I mean, he gave that sort of a reason. Acapulco is, of course, an event he would have played regardless, even if he was, probably would have played regardless. But yeah, that's what it is. Anyway, yeah, when it comes to Mahat, Jean is right to point out that the first serve of his in the final, not really the whole week, but like in the final, was just absurd. And then yeah, the whole week, as we said in the preview, he was absolutely fantastic. The backhand was backhanding and really kind of like once more proved to be the standout shot in his arsenal. And the net, of course, he was just unbelievable as well. The hands that he has is just it's such a joy to watch. And well, Davidovich Fokina, I'm not gonna be like too negative about him after this final. For a guy who has made 3 in his career to make 2 in 3 weeks, it's still really good. Obviously, the chance was Delray Beach. This was not exactly the one where he had to win, or like he was in the position to win. I agree that after the Wednesday Bloody Wednesday situation with the food poisoning, most certainly it felt to me like Mahat and Shapovalov are the main favorites. Shapo led Davidovich Fokina in both sets. Maybe we could have gotten that final by the time we had it. I mean, it was only one of these players and someone who's been at a very strong peak level for a while. We also touched on that on the preview, but basically in ELO ratings, Tomas Mahat has been around the top 10 for a while, which might sound a bit excessive. Like even to me, it sounds a bit excessive. But if you think about it, basically the only matches he's really like blown or rather disappointed in the last few months are the big events. So like Djokovic at the Australian Open, the Minor at the US Open, where he has really flat performances. And of course, the way that the ELO ratings work, it's just basically looking at who you're losing to and not which round. So he lost to Djokovic, the Minor, didn't lose too many points. But these were the disappointing performances in big events that have kept him from going up in the rankings. Well, for now, not anymore. He is now the Czech number 1, slightly ahead of Lehečka. They've been kind of like swapping for the last few months, really. What else was there in Acapulco, really? I mean, we had mentioned Shapovalov already. We had Leonard Tien in the quarters as well. Nakashima finally made the run. But it does feel like the food poisoning kind of gave this event, it really like moved the event forward in terms of eliminating so many of the stars and kind of just leaving us with a few players.
Yeah, definitely. It was for sure a big storyline because, especially because for me, I remember that night was a night I really didn't stay up for anything. So I just woke up and checked the score and saw that barely any match happened throughout the whole night. And yeah, it's been for sure a bit weird as a situation. And yeah, it suddenly opened everything. Not that the top players were looking unbeatable. It could have still been an open thing, meaning that I can see, Mahat beating the players who had to withdraw or retire in this tournament. But still, of course, it, made, let's say, life easier for some players who took advantage. Overall, I mean, still, if we look at the semifinal lineup, for example, all players who are doing well. I mean, Davidovich Fokina, he's in great form, started the year very, very good. Also had a great Australian Open. Shapovalov coming from a title in a big one in Dallas. Of course, Mahat that we mentioned. So let's say that, the semifinal lineup probably was not, most people were expecting, but it was very credible still if you think about how the players were doing even before this week in Acapulco. So yeah, that has been for sure a great storyline. But my feeling is that the semifinals and the final, the tournament has delivered anyway. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Ozan, to your question, I don't think we're at this point yet when we're wondering whether Davidovich Fokina will ever win a title. I mean, the answer is still he's so much closer to it than to never winning one. He's still so young. And yeah, similarly to you, I mean, I didn't really watch that much of that day in Acapulco. I remember that before I went to bed, Tommy Paul had already pulled out. But still, just waking up and the first thing we do, because we're nerds and idiots, we just literally get our phones and we check tennis results still in bed. So the first thing I did was, and like, what? So first of all, Ruud, so like the tournament favorite for me, withdraws, and And of course, people are also speculating about about Shelton and Zverev, but Rune retires. It was definitely a bit of a crazy one. And Ozan has a question to you about Acapulco being a success since switching to hard courts over 10 years ago.
I mean, why not? We've seen some strong additions. We've seen, I think, more or less as in every tournament, we see some editions which deliver more and other edition which deliver a little bit less. But overall, I mean, there have been also some classics. I remember, even if the humidity was making the players not feeling well, but that semifinal between Taylor Fritz and Tommy Paul 2 years ago, and last year also there was a good story. Ruud played the semifinal, the final with the Minor. This year, I mean, there has been that unfortunate day for sure. I think everybody wondered what happened, because if all some players all feel the same thing, there has been an issue. But overall, the tournament has kind of delivered anyway in the end. So why not?
Yeah, I think it's been fine. Always a bit tough to watch for us in Europe because they start so late in the day. But obviously, there were a few editions where Rafa played it, either when he won it or when he lost to Query, which were big news. I mean, the Kyrgios run when he was out partying until like 6 a.m. before every single match and then won it. That's definitely legendary. Stefan Kozlov when he fell into the water and then he had to play Dimitrov later and barely survived. Like, that was amazing too. So I do think that over the years the event was generally more filled with stories than this one. But if you dig a little bit deeper into this edition, then you're also going to find a lot of good stuff there. Happy birthday, James.
Pacheco, for example, as well. Just a shout out to his name. It's been kind of good to see him winning a match.
Who? Come again? Because I didn't hear.
Pacheco.
Rodrigo Pacheco Mendes. Yeah, quarterfinalist, and he's going to be at like 230 in the rankings, and has never made a challenger semifinal, which is pretty insane. But yeah, former junior number one, of course, they are looking at him as the biggest potential star in Mexico. He's had some nice, showdowns with Escobedo for the Mexican number one, and basically, of course, now he's going to be much, much higher than Neto in the rankings. Anyway, I think with Acapulco, that's more or less it. So let's move on to talking about Santiago, where Sebastian Baez did not complete the Baez double. And instead, it's Laslo Djere, who I think after this golden swing, we can definitely say he's back.
Yeah, first title in a while, because he had reached 3 finals but lost all of them. Look, very good showing. He was playing with such confidence in the semifinal and in the final as well, trying what he had to do at the right moment. Of course, not all the time everything was going in the best possible way, but you could feel that he had the confidence to do all the right things. Serving well is also in many moments of these tough matches that he played. So it's been for sure great to see him playing this well. He also had some physical troubles. So yeah, welcome back also in the top 100, and I feel like he is somebody who has to be there. So overall, great showing, also beating good opposition. Somebody, of course, especially, the final, somebody who does always well in these tournaments and in Santiago as well. And so very, very good wins. And I feel like, yeah, he is back. We can say, yeah, first title in 5 years, because the last one was in the fall of 2020. So
in the land of Mario.
In Cagliari for 4 years and a half, basically. So yeah, he had also other runs. For example, 2023, he was a finalist in Hamburg, but yeah, lost 3 finals in a row since 2020, and so yeah, finally back in the winner circles. And yeah, we'll see in the next month. But this week, I think we've seen some very, very fine performances from him.
Yeah, awesome golden swing. Buenos Aires, he made the semis.
Yeah, exactly.
Couldn't play Rio because he lost that to Fonseca, and Fonseca was a bit higher ranked, so he took the special exempt for Rio. But of course, he did fine in Santiago, and yeah, just a tough season last year after the injury in the beginning of the clay season. I don't think he ever truly recovered. But now it looks like he's just going to be back among the top and clearly belongs there, really. So, yeah, and also not the first time he performs in the Golden Swing, of course. 2019 Rio was his first title, where there was the big story when he started talking about his parents, and definitely very memorable moments. Sebastian Baez, yeah, I mean, almost went back to back, but I guess this Golden Swing still has to be treated as something massive for him because he's barely fallen off in the rankings. And well, his ranking was literally built on these 2 weeks, and once more he delivered. Of course, winning the more important events, the one that's priced higher.
Yes, indeed, indeed. I think if he had to choose one, of course, he would have chosen this way. Fine as always in South America. Thinking after, maybe I can say I was not expecting less, but thinking before, it could have gone worse. Because he didn't come there with the best feelings possible, and of course with the pressure of having to defend a lot of points, basically almost everything, let's say, and he did very well. Didn't even start that great, meaning that the first couple of tournaments he was a little bit so. But then, yeah, came to Rio. Between Rio and Santiago, did well, as we have always seen him doing in these tournaments. Of course, let's say that probably European clay is also a task that he needs to. Now in April, May, we should expect him to do a little bit better than last year. Because of course, I'm not even talking about other surfaces, but focusing on the clay, I think a goal for him can be to prove himself also, to be, more dangerous also on the European clay tournaments that we're going to have in.
Okay, so what would be the kind of results during the European clay swing that would tell you, okay, yeah, he's kind of made the, I don't know if improvement in his game, but basically he's done something that's new.
Yeah, let's say, for example, if he manages last year to win that match against Turkac in Rome, and then he has built some sort of a run, let's say, because that was around 4.
Okay.
That was around 4. It could have been a quarterfinal. My feeling is that, we see, for example, I compare, for example, to Cerundolo, who hasn't done this well in the Golden Swing as Baez, meaning in grabbing title. But, for example, he has a Rome quarterfinal, he has a Madrid quarterfinal.
Back-to-back 4th rounds at Roland Garros
as well. So that's the sort of goal I am trying to set, meaning that if you're able to do this well on that clay in that part of the year, trying to translate this in these sort of runs. Of course, I'm not talking about anything, like winning big titles, but trying to be a little bit more dangerous, or maybe even get a couple big wins here and there. It hasn't really been the case so far. I mean, yeah, last year in Rome he beat Rune, but trying to build a little bit more also in that part of the season, meaning that war number 34 doesn't mean you are there because 500 points in Rio and the final back-to-back finals in Santiago as well, trying to to build a more sustainable ranking as well.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I don't want to be too harsh, but I was not too invested in the Baez run this year in Rio and in Santiago because I've seen it before. I know he can do this. Now I want that, I don't know, yeah, like an ATP 1000 quarterfinal, Roland Garros second week.
Exactly.
That's something that I would like to see. Ozan is going even further and says that he needs to make the Roland Garros quarters. I guess that's kind of more draw dependent, but yeah, I mean, something like at least Cerundolo was a good example, just these back-to-back round 4s at Roland Garros. That's already huge. And of course, he had winning chances in both of these matches too, both against Rune and against Novak. So yeah, that's kind of where I would also like to see from Baez now. I think that you're right that last year there were a few matches. It wasn't just the Hurkacz one, but there were a few matches during the European clay season where like he beats Arnaldi there, he beats Hurkacz, and we're talking about a completely different landscape. But for some reason, I mean, all of these matches just didn't go his way, and yeah, it just felt like he literally had 2 good weeks last year. So hopefully it's not going to be like that this year, and Sebastian Baez can actually make some sort of a jump. I don't think he's even made the third round at the French. There was that one huge
he was
match
1
he had
point
against
away.
Zverev.
Yeah, against Zverev. Actually, no, not at the French, but he did in the hardcore slams. So
yeah, that's true.
Sometimes it's, I don't know. But yeah, I think, when I mentioned Cerundolo is that because I was thinking in that sort of way.
Yeah, makes total sense. So yeah, anyone else in Santiago we have to touch on?
I mean, I think we, of course, there are the players who reached the semifinals. Carabelli did so well in this golden swing. Both him and actually also Comesaña, even if the run was not in Santiago, but ranking going up means they will have a couple of opportunities also later in the year to get on the bigger stages. And yeah, probably Cerundolo a little bit disappointed with that semifinal performance, was not good at all. But at the same time, we mentioned Djere, who was very steady the whole week. So yeah, I would say that probably for me a good story of this golden swing has been looking these players like Carabelli and Comesaña and see their ranking going up to where it has to be in order to get those opportunities to play in bigger tournaments a little bit more frequently.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Comesaña almost beat Baez even, right? 5-3. He plays like 4 awful
He
points
should have
in the
won that
tiebreak.
match.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what he's doing there from 5-3, but he basically had it there. And yeah, Ugo Carabelli just lost 3 times, I guess, to
in Buenos Aires,
Baez.
Rio, and Santiago.
So what else can you do, really? I mean, you just run into one of the best guys. It's the first rounds, the semis, and the semis, I guess. So at least he got a couple of semis out of this. Anyway, yeah. Are there any new is there any new information, Ozan, about this? What are you mentioning? The 10th Masters 1000 event. I mean, some of the initial plans just had the Australian Open pushed back by 1 week, and the event starting with a 1000 in Saudi Arabia. Personally, I don't mind. I mean, there's a large gap between Australia and Roland Garros, so like pushing the Australian Open back by 1 week, that's not a big deal. If we push Roland Garros by 1 week, then that's actually something that's dangerous to the grass season. But with Australia, I mean, it's hardly a big difference.
I don't know. I love February. How the February of tennis is structured, because I am so I'm not really that drawn into changes of the schedule, but I guess from what I understand, it's just a matter of time. This has to happen sooner or later, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it will probably happen at some point. We're still not talking about a Premier Tour or whatever, like the split we have in golf. As long as we're not talking about that, I'm okay.
Yes, exactly.
ATP Weekly will be later today, but I don't think it's scheduled yet for an exact hour, but it will be later today in a few hours. So one more thing, of course, Indian Wells is coming up. As I said, we're not going to be talking about detailed because we don't have the draw, and we're kind of also unsure about how the courts will play even, but that's actually a topic. How do you feel about the sandpaper courts getting removed, and obviously now it's going to be just a normal lay-cold surface?
I have read that somebody in Shelton's camp said it plays faster, and that was the general feeling when the news broke out. I only dubbed a little bit, meaning that the court is not the only factor, that makes the conditions lower or faster. For example, I went to check the court pace index, and for 2024, that the official one that the ATP shows, and Indian Wells apparently was a bit faster last year than Miami.
That's been the
Already.
case for many years, yeah, but it didn't play
Yeah.
faster. I think this
Yes,
article that we
exactly.
have on our screen, it would do better to say just like we'll have faster conditions rather than a faster court, right?
Yeah, and that's why I'm just a little bit doubtful about, if it will really be a big change or it will just be, maybe slightly faster or something like that. But I still don't know, because as we know, there are many factors that we have to take into account. At times the conditions in tennis also changes for example, from night session to day session. So it's all difficult. We have to, of course, there are now the players practicing. So if we reach out to some player, probably somebody will be able to tell us a little bit before. But I've seen too much speculation being made before actually watching the tennis there to of course no, WTA qualies have started actually already.
Yes, yesterday there was the first round, but I didn't watch any of it, so I can't say
me
much.
neither. So let's say that I don't want to give a big judgment too fast, because the court and the surface is not the only thing which makes. For example, even the clay, Madrid and Rome, for a lot of years Rome has had a higher index than Madrid, but everybody of course reminds us that due to the altitude and everything, Madrid plays a bit faster, seems like a little bit indoor. So there are many things to take into consideration.
Yeah, I think one of the parts of the how unique the old Indian Wells courts were was definitely the bounce. I mean, it was just behaving like a clay court sort of. I'm with Daniel Medvedev on the fact that it wasn't really a hard court, like it was something different. But I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. I like the fact that Indian Wells and Miami had such very distinct conditions. And my hope is that because of the, basically where the events are located, especially the desert in Indian Wells, I think that it will still play differently. I just hope it's different enough. And Rome, Madrid, obviously it's the same now, right? So you've got 4 weeks of action basically. But Rome and Madrid, they play very different despite both of these being clay courts. In fact, clay courts as a whole, we have so many clay courts on the tour and they're all different to one another. It's very hard to just find a surface where this is normal clay. There's no such thing as normal clay, really. With hard courts, it's a bit easier. If you just place all the events in I don't know, and a city where it's not too dry, not too humid, not too hot, not too cold, they would play very similar if they're laid by the same company. The old Indian Wells surface used to have so much sand in the mix that the ball just kind of sat up, in place after hitting the ground. I didn't really enjoy the court profile generally, but I do think that yes, right now it was just something very unique. So I'm afraid of losing that. I'm afraid of the whole March looking just like 4 weeks of tennis in the same sort of court. Doesn't matter that it's really Indian Wells or Miami. I don't think it will be quite like that, but that's obviously something that we have to just check out. As I said previously, I didn't see any of the women's qualifying action. Maybe after today I'll have some conclusions, as obviously men's qualifying, I'm just putting on the first matches when it starts in 2 hours and 43 minutes. So hopefully there I will have some conclusions, but for now I just can't say much. Indeed, what Gil is pointing out here, the press release is a little bit weird. I think tennis, one of the best parts about tennis it's that it's literally the only sport where you have free surfaces. You have so many different conditions which literally impact how the sport works. I don't know if you're playing table tennis, wherever you do, it's a table. It's the same table. There's no difference. I mean, obviously altitude can also impact it, but in tennis you just have every single court playing differently. And indeed, I think this is something we should be maintaining, simply because this is what makes the sport stand out and this is what keeps it fun. So yeah, that's my only kind of worry here, but I agree with what I think Gene said, and about the weather also being such an important thing. And yes, speed isn't the only thing. Yesterday, someone
The wind.
was actually
Indian Wells has always been very windy as well.
the wind as well. Yes, I mean yesterday someone was texting me about the Indian Wells courts because they saw a photo that I took when I was in Lille of the surface, which was also laid by Lakewold, and I'm like, yeah, I can't tell you much because it's not going to be the same. Like the court is only one of the factors, really. So we just have to wait and see. Well, we did speak about the new strings for Steph. We basically have spoken about everything by now. Okay, Ozan, yes, tables are also different, but in table tennis, I mean, you're not going to play on some random ass table in a big event, right? I mean, they're all the same. They're all using the same table. Obviously, you're going to have different tables in like, your local gym, but I'm just talking about how the pro sport looks. And in tennis, we have so many different surfaces and conditions that I do think it keeps it fun. Anyway, I think that's more or less it, unless you have anything more to add, Mario.
No, I think that's it. I enjoy these weeks, but now, I mean, time to be back to some big events like Indian Wells. So we'll see what we will talk about in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and obviously we have 2 more pieces of content coming out on Talking Tennis today. One of them will be WTA Weekly in a few hours, and also the live reaction to the Indian Wells draw. I actually don't know how they are releasing it. Is it like a ceremony or sorts? I don't know. Anyway, it will be there. Some people will be there, so don't worry. B-Man will be at Indian Wells in the sense that he will be on call, Matthew, I'm sure. I mean, definitely if there's a B emergency, then Lance Davis is going to be there momentarily. But I'm not sure he's going to be there in sitting in the crowd and just waiting for it to happen. Obviously, he also has other people he has to tend to, right? He's not like the personal B eliminator of Larry Ellison or Tommy Haas. So, but yeah, I mean, I hope he's going to show up. Like, I don't care. I don't care that it's going to be a 1 hour long delay. I want Lance Davis to be there again. And just be the beautiful man that he is. Yogi doesn't think that this should be the case.
We have been told lately there haven't been many classics at Indian Wells, but this was definitely a classic.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is something we're going to be talking about for years to come, and this is going to be like a tennis memory that for new tennis fans, this is what you'll be telling them about, and they'll be like, what? This happened? And yes, Buzz Off is actually a good pun there. Yeah, he'll be sitting next to Bill Gates and Larry Ellison for sure. He gains that. He is one of the 10 richest men on the planet after last year. Anyway, yeah, should be some watch-alongs and live shows during Indian Wells as well. So we're going to keep the content rolling on Talking Tennis as we usually do. Thank you, Mario. Thank you to everybody in the chat. And see you shortly.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.